Hello and welcome to episode 65 of Dots, Lines, and Destinations. If you're joining us for the first time from boarding area, welcome. We hope you enjoy the show. Be sure and look through the archives to give listen to old episodes, especially the classic Kwajalein fiasco that we went through. I don't remember what episode that was, but it was a good one. So this episode, we're going to talk about more range, more partners, more love, and more cowbell. How you doing, guys?
Doing very well.
Good. Good to hear y'all's voices. It's been a couple weeks. We got the first story I think just came out today, and we're recording this on Tuesday, the 21st. The Airbus 321 Neo, they announced a new version of it, the LR, and apparently the range is going to be the same as the Rolls-Royce 752's 752W. Seth, do you know more about this?
Yeah, it's not necessarily officially announced, although Airbus did respond to one tweet online saying that they had an entry in service date for it. So I guess that's about as close as you're going to get without a press release or something like that. But basically and the name, this 321 Neo LR, is not necessarily going to stick either. It's quite the tongue twister. But the general idea is they're basically adding 3 fuel tanks and increasing the maximum takeoff weight to get it up to somewhere north of 3,900 nautical miles in range, which is very, very close to what the transatlantic 752s run typically. And it's going to be, they say, 20 flatbed business seats in the sort of, zone 1 or whatever, and then I think 144 coach seats, so 164 total seats, which compares to 169 on United's config of similar, the United 752s that go international. I think Delta and American have a few more seats on theirs, but it's close in total seats. It's close in range, and they say they're going to be able to hit 25% lower TCO than what the 752s are today.
Now, one of the appealing things about this existing 752 is the high altitude takeoffs. Will this be able to do that?
I haven't seen nearly that level of detail on the spec.
Yeah, I mean, that's so the 752s originally were built kind of as a high performance. They were overpowered, right?
Sure.
And so
even the non-sort of long-range, the non-W series was overpowered.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. Airbus kind of sees this need because those 752s are now coming close to end of life. At least, United's retired all of their Pratt & Whitney 752s.
They're moving that way.
They're moving them. Yeah, they're getting rid of them. And then I think American and U.S. Airways have kind of started moving some of those 752s out of the fleet. And
Delta as well.
And Delta has, yeah.
Wait, Delta's retiring an old airplane?
Yeah, believe it or not, they've gotten rid of some of the. Well, I mean, after the merger, they had 9 varieties of the 752, so I think they've been consolidating some of those down a little bit.
So, and their 752s are a little different too, right? Because I don't think they have any Rolls-Royce 752s. They're all
the Pratt & Whitney ones.
Yeah, and they only can do a few destinations in Europe out of JFK, right?
Yeah, I don't even think they're doing many, if anything, out of JFK. They used to. I mean, but those are the planes they used to fly things like Hartford to Amsterdam. That long-lasting flight. The Raleigh, Paris. That I don't know if that ever took off. That was on the 75. The
Pittsburgh, Paris was.
Pittsburgh, Paris was another one. But the other thing is, the 75s have 2 configurations from a door. There's either the 10-door or the 8-door. So you've got the 10 door is what United has, which is the 3 large doors and the 2 over wing exits. But then there's the 8 door, which is the 3 doors and then 1 exit behind the wing.
Interesting. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, so Delta has a mix of both of those.
And so, I mean, really, the capacity stays the same with the Neo, the A321 Neo, or similar, close.
Similar.
You get more lie-flat beds in the A321 compared to United. I don't know what it is on American, how many seats there are up front.
I think it's also the same 16.
16. So you're getting 4 more seats. So your reduction's mostly in coach. I wonder how that's going to play with carriers like United and American.
Yeah, and that's it's not clear how much of that is sort of extra legroom versus not, and all those other things. So, the short answer is until we actually see the real specs from Airbus, we're not going to be entirely sure.
Yeah.
But someone is doing something about this. Is really what it looks like to me, right? There's been so much talk over time about what's going to replace all these planes, and no one's ever really had an answer. And the 737 MAX has never been right. It's not quite the range or the size. And maybe this makes Boeing either to say, okay, we're going to open up the 752 tooling and restart that line, or something else. But we've talked about this in the past of what's going to happen with these planes, and now it seems at least there's one viable option. So
yeah, and that was actually interesting because Boeing had there was rumors of Boeing restarting the line. I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, of the 752s, and I just thought that's kind of crazy because they have to kind of retool some stuff, and it would just, I mean, they're full on 787 production right now. I don't see them stopping and, hey, let's build 752s. But I think this is a good thing. This may just light a fire in Boeing to come up with something that replaces the 752 and keeps contracts or gains contracts.
The challenge there for them, among other things, is Airbus's answer was we expect to enter in service in Q1 2019. That's not enough time for Boeing to build a new airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It's going to have to be a MAX derivative or somehow turn that maybe they could take the old 752 fuselage and wings and winglets and put new engines on it.
Yeah.
But
they could very easily change some of the materials and make it lighter weight. I mean, the nice thing for Boeing is they already have the footprint. They know how to make a plane of that size. So it's just, enhancing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's they have the composite stuff down now, so I think that's a plus in their favor. And Airbus too, with the A350 and stuff coming into play. They're both experienced. It's just now it's in Boeing's court, right, to do something. I just don't know if they can do it in the 2019 frame.
And Airbus to actually and on an Airbus to actually deliver in that time frame also. But the time frame's going to be tight. It's going to be interesting to see how well that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if you guys saw, speaking of the A350, we did get word from Qatar Airways that they're going to put it on Frankfurt Doha as their first route with it. So.
Oh, cool. Very cool. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah. There's that whole question of if they're ever actually going to take delivery and when it'll happen.
Yeah.
But they did actually finally take delivery of the 380s, so.
So Hertz and United have announced a new partnership. I think United actually announced it today. I don't have all the details, but Seth, do you know what this is?
Yeah, basically, if you have elite status with United, you now also get elite status with Hertz. Silvers and golds get 5-star status, and platinums, 1Ks, and global services get President's Club status. And the earning rates are now also going to increase significantly for if you're an elite member crediting your rental towards United rather than crediting it towards Hertz. So it goes up to like 1,250 points per rental instead of just 500.
Oh, wow. That's good. And they're also giving it to credit card holders? Is that something you had mentioned?
Yeah, it's a weird sort of setup, and this is sort of, to me, this is actually the interesting part. The points is basically the same as what they just did with Delta earlier this year, down to like the different splits of the point levels and tiers and such. That's cool, but not exactly the same. But for anyone who's a co-brand card holder, even if you're not elite, you get 750 points per rental instead of 500. And if you have one of the club cards, you get the President's Circle benefit.
Oh, wow.
Even if you're not elite.
Yeah, I mean, this may actually encourage me to rent from Hertz. I never rent from Hertz. I'm a Avis person.
And so you get the status now for Avis through that Presidential Plus card or whatever. It's not clear if that one's going away. There's some weird verbiage about it being an exclusive deal, but it's not clear if that means it's exclusive in both directions. In one direction right now is United only going to partner with Hertz and no other car rental companies are going to allow points earning on United? Is it that United's the only program where Hertz is going to do this? It's not entirely clear.
Interesting.
But,
okay.
Well, I mean, Avis is
and it's. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say Avis is dissolving the first program, which is what they moved most of the people over to.
Really?
If you have the Presidential Plus card, you still get the President's Circle, but if you have the club card, you were getting President's Circle, but now you only get Avis First.
That's not going away?
Yeah. Yeah,
no, I remember that, but Avis First is going away?
Yeah, they sent me some email that the program's going away, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand. Avis is, I just don't think they understand what loyalty means, because you could rent from them every week, but you don't actually get anything from them.
Yeah, I think they're getting rid of the weekend days. You're getting rid of the free weekend days. And you're just going to earn points to getting weekends, or getting free days. That's what the change is. So I got that same email because I have a bunch of free weekends and I hardly ever use them, but I'm gonna have to burn them up before the change.
I can never use them, so I just throw mine out, unfortunately. But because they're so restrictive that they're a little bit of a waste. But it's interesting. I had a discussion with someone at Avis Corporate a few months ago. I'm like, well, how does one get presidents or chairmans Like I rent every week. I get nothing. It's not like I'm renting them on Priceline. Like, oh, those are just randomly selected by our CEO. So
there's no way that's actually true.
I have the email. They said that only our CEO office can select who gets this and who doesn't. I'm like, how's that loyal? And they just ignored the rest of the chain.
So they send like the guy at Excel spreadsheet, name, times rented.
I personally think it's someone with a magic 8-ball.
Oh man. So is this a good thing? I mean, is it Hertz? I've never really rented from Hertz. Are they a good company to rent from, or should I be looking forward to this, or what?
I rent from them a lot when I go to Nashville because AutoSlash has some ridiculous corporate rate that works spectacular there, and I get cars for like $25 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can get my 1,250 United points for that, I'll take that in a heartbeat. And that's one of the stations that has like the just walk out and pick up your car and go kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like the Emerald, National does for everybody, basically. And so, in that regard, I like using them there, but I've yet to get really, and I don't rent every week, so that's part of it, but I never get really excited by rental car programs at all.
Yeah.
I go with what's cheap.
I find Avis to be
I'll pay a little bit extra to have. Yes, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I pay a little extra sometimes for, for a long time I had Avis First status, for reasons that didn't actually parallel renting cars very often, so maybe that's, indicative of the fact that someone in the president's office just liked me, or the CEO's office liked me, I guess. But I would pay a few bucks extra because saving time at the line at an airport is big for me. Like, the last thing I want to do after getting off the plane is spend 30 minutes trying to pick up a car.
Yeah.
But that's worth a couple bucks to me a day. But, when it gets stupid, it's, stupid.
I mean, to me, Hertz is slightly more organized than Avis. But I still prefer National above the other two.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it for price reasons, or?
National, I find their customer service to be simply just amazing. Even though they're owned by Enterprise, just the conversations, they're engaging, they're generally very decent. I always find it a much more pleasant experience. Hertz, and the one drawback with Hertz is they're always expensive.
Mm.
I think it's because they always have pretty much the closest, like in San Francisco, it's the best one to return at or something like that because it's on that one level and everybody else is on the other level.
They're always the best they're almost always the best location. In Nashville, they're all the way upstairs, which is not great, but it's like an extra 10 seconds on the escalator. But yeah, them and Avis usually is too, right? Those two generally pay extra to get closer to the terminal.
Yeah.
And so they charge a little more for that benefit.
I'm gonna have to try it out. I mean, corporately I have to rent via Avis, but Hertz, I'll give them a try on some personal rentals that I have to make soon. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I'll just add that the reason I really use Hertz mostly is because it's, Amex gives you a discount for them.
Huh.
So the business card and the regular card have different rates. So it just became easy for me. I just started using Hertz.
Gotcha. When does this go into effect, Seth?
The earning rates go into effect November 1st, and the status match goes into effect January 1st.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Next topic. I've seen some trip reports about this already, but I thought we should talk about it because I find the pictures of it interesting. The new American seat on the 777-200s, the two-class 777s, ones that are getting converted. It's got a patented seat design where it's forward-facing and rear-facing. Each row is the opposite. Interesting. The pictures look really interesting. I think it flew Dallas Fort Worth to Santiago, Chile the other day, and someone took pictures.
Ooh.
The native Argentina.
That is the route it's on.
That's the route that it's going to be dedicated to?
No, it's just the route it's on right now.
Gotcha. It looks tight. I mean, it's especially the window seats. I mean, your head area where you're going to lay down, regardless of which direction you're facing, looks really, really tight. Have you guys seen the pictures?
Arrow. What's interesting to me is sort of just comparing that seat versus some of the herringbone options like Delta and Cathay, the Cirrus seat. Is on the 777, the density is actually lower, right? They're getting 20 seats in the forward section, whereas the others are getting 20 to 25, or like 24, 26, depending. But on the 787, they can get a ton of seats, all with direct aisle access. So they're doing where United has 3 rows of 6, so 18 seats in the 222 layout. American can do 20 with direct aisle access with this new seat.
So you're saying American gets more seats.
Seems interesting to me. I think that may be more about where it's from.
So you're saying American gets more
And
seats
they'll have direct aisle access.
in the same space with direct aisle access than United can with their 222 layout. I mean, this seems like a good thing for United to kind of look at, maybe, or something similar to it.
Well, yeah, it's patented, so, they have to license it.
I think that I just flew on United and I was in the window, and it's impossible to get out from the window if you don't know the person next to you. Like, if they're sleeping, you're waking them up. So, like, direct aisle access for me now will become huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, it's. I had a PS flight last week, and the guy next to me didn't fall asleep until like halfway through the flight, maybe even later than that. And near the end of the flight, I needed to get up and just go to the bathroom, and I had to do like a hurdle jump from the window seat. And luckily, I was in the bulkhead, so I could kind of use the bulkhead as my balance to get over. But I can't imagine doing that, on a regular seat in the 2-2 layout. It's crazy. And then you wake somebody up, and if they're really trying to sleep, I mean, that sucks for everybody. I don't want to be a jerk.
Well, you should have picked a different seat.
I don't hate the 222 layout nearly as much. And, one of the things looking at the pictures, I often fly with my wife, and it's not a nice layout for being with someone at all.
I don't think any of the direct aisle access seats are.
No.
Really. I mean,
no, they all suck for that. So.
Well, maybe the Cathay seat where they're reverse herringbone where you can kind of lean over and talk, but even then I think it's extreme.
Yeah,
well, no, the Emirates seats are, though, like because they stagger them. It's that. Are you talking about just the herringbone ones or all the business classes?
But are they also direct aisle access?
Yeah, they all have direct aisle access. Because the one on the window sides are single, and then in the middle it staggers in and out. So like if you really want to be close to somebody, you pick the ones that are like very close.
Oh, so it's kind of like the Asiana new business or the ANA business class as well, where it's the two seats in the middle, every other row they're really close together, and then the other row they're far apart.
Right.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's true.
But those ones, I'm trying to remember. I think Thai does that on their upstairs on the 380 also, I guess. Then
yeah,
I'm just trying to remember if that had doesn't. I don't remember that being direct aisle access for everybody.
I know on Asiana and on their A380 and their 777s and on the ANA seats, it's all aisle. Every seat has an aisle access.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, it's the inside outside because there's there's like the desk on the inside pairs. Okay, yeah.
And Swiss also, isn't it?
Swiss has something
Swiss
similar.
is a different seat.
But it's similar, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, for me, like when I fly with Jess, it's we want to be we probably talk for part of the flight, or we watch, I'll watch a movie and I'll tell her about it or something. You just want to have a communication when you're on a long flight. And so I appreciate that. I don't want to sit far away all the time.
It's interesting to me. I like flying next to my wife, similar to what you do. But on our last trip over to Europe, we actually were on American 77W in coach and took the opportunity to get as far apart from each other as we possibly could because of how crowded that plane is down the back. By which I mean we each got a set of 3 of lie flat coach, but they're on opposite sides of the plane. I guess she got the ABC seats and I got the JKL seat. So, but yeah,
you were kind of like, you know what, I love you, but I really just need some space on this crowded airplane.
No, I asked her, I'm like, listen, I know you generally like sitting next to me and whatnot, but there's 3 open over there, and I can get live flight coach for both of us. She's like, yes, go. Okay.
I see. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out.
Anyways,
so this past weekend, Seth, you were down in Mexico City. You flew the Aeromexico 787 down, and then Interjet back. You want to give us a quick report on what you thought of those?
Sure. I really, really, really liked the Aeromexico 787.
Really?
Even in coach. And I've always liked the 787. I really do believe that the humidity and the air pressure makes a difference for me. Mm-hmm. I have very dry skin and am very susceptible to problems with that on planes. And I notice a difference when I'm on the 787. And this is, that's a 5-hour flight. So it was long enough that, I had the opportunity to notice it there as well. But what was also interesting to me is the business seat is basically the same as the United seat. It looks very similar. I had the opportunity to upgrade to it, and I'm pretty glad I didn't, just based on the cost there. I don't think it was worth the price.
Yeah.
And also, just as an aside, if you are on Aeromexico ticket stock, they'll sell you an upgrade on that flight for $250 at the gate or at the counter when you check in.
Wow.
If they have seats open. So that's not bad for a 5-hour flight. I'm not sure it's worth it, but it's not. It's a midday flight. You're basically getting a bit more. You get a lot more space, but in the meal it's free pour booze in the back. I asked the guy for some tequila, and he basically just gave me, a cup and just poured from the bottle until I told him to stop. And then came back an hour later with refills. So, but, one of the problems I've had on other 787s, they felt just narrow and cramped a little bit. Not quite as bad as the American 7W felt to me, but this one had, for everybody in coach, probably 34-inch pitch. It was a lot of legroom. I kind of didn't notice when I sat down, but then I remembered, wait a minute, this isn't Economy Plus or anything like that. There's a lot of space here.
And it's 333, right?
Yeah, it is still 333, and it's not crazy wide. It's not wide seats by any stretch, but that was with a woman sitting next to me. I mean, it was a full set of three. I didn't feel particularly cramped. The little snack / meal, was a generic pasta of some sort that tasted just fine, but it was really actually a nice ride. They had the video on demand system. Didn't have a ton of selections. I think they had only 10 or 11 movies, but they had a few movies. They had some TV shows. It was, for me, I really do like flying on the Dreamliner. I come off the plane feeling better for doing it. So
yeah, I mean, it's better than spending 5.5 hours on a single aisle plane with probably no entertainment or limited entertainment. It's more comfortable for sure.
Yeah, and it's not even single double aisle for me. I really think it's the humidity and the air pressure.
Yeah.
One interesting thing, Aeromexico doesn't have flight attendant crew rest on theirs.
Wow. So how are they doing that?
They don't have bunks.
How are they doing the Narita flight?
They close off the back couple rows on the outside, on the JKL side. They close off 2 rows, and that's the crew rest.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, and I saw they had a curtain pulled and whatever. I was like, wait a minute, what? And then I looked up, and sure enough, where the overhead bins are normally blocked out for crew rest, there actually were overhead bins. And I said something to one of the lead flight attendant about it, wow, you guys don't really get crew rest bunks up here, huh? And he was a little disappointed. He's like, yeah, the other airlines get that. We don't get that sort of thing.
I wonder why they opted for that. I mean, what do they lose by doing that?
That's a good question, right? Because obviously putting in the bunks costs money, but not selling the seats costs money too.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it makes sense not to have the overhead bins, and because that's where the crew rest is, right? It's where the overhead bins are. You lose 2 rows of overhead bins in
the middle only.
In the middle only. I mean, to me, it's this is a no-brainer. I mean, you're flying a non-stop to Tokyo, or a one-stop
or various
back.
Other places.
Yeah, and you're doing you have European trips. I mean, that stinks. I mean,
sucks for that crew.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
So anyway, but for me as the passenger, I really enjoyed it.
How was Interjet on the way back?
I swear it could have been JetBlue if it had televisions. It's 150 seats on an A320. There's no extra legroom versus not. Everybody had 32 to 34 inches of pitch. It was, again, real spacious. No internet, no IFE. They had overhead screens, drop down screens that'll show you a moving map for a little bit, and then some weird ass TV show. I don't even know. Bloopers or something, and then back to the moving map, and then we landed. It's the downside of it is they don't have meals. That one route, the JFK flight, is the one they serve quote unquote a meal on, and what they offered was this a roll with some slices of cheese on it, or there was one that was barbecue pineapple and cheese.
Oh no!
And a couple packs of chips. I had a couple packs of chips, and that was dinner. And I had brought some food on board, so I made it through. And the woman next to me, who spoke a little more Spanish and was helping me translate where the flight attendants, was like, "Are you sure you're going to be okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I kind of went into this knowing it was going to suck for food, so I prepared for that. But pack your own lunch or dinner for the return flight."
Are there a lot of options at their terminal in Mexico City?
Not really, but there's enough.
Yeah. Because are they on the south side of the airport, or are they on the north?
They're in Terminal 1. I don't remember which is which, but it's the one where United is. It's not where Aeromexico is.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's not the Aeromexico terminal is actually not bad. That side of the airport's not bad. But where United is, it's kind of very sparse when it comes to anything.
There's a couple restaurants. I mean, actually, whatever. I ordered to go. I had an order of tacos and an order of empanadas from the place that was there, and the tacos were good. I ate them first while they were still warm. I should have eaten empanadas while they were still warm, I'm sure. The cheese sort of congealed, and that was clearly not a good thing. But it's it's not so bad.
Yeah. Good.
But the flight was comfortable, and to me, I'll take space over just about anything else on board, and that was big. It was really nice.
Good. Thanks for the report. Appreciate it. this is an odd story. On American recently, I think this just happened the other day, a woman vomited in the lavatory, and soon after she was told, we would rather you not return to your seat for fear of Ebola. And they kind of cordoned off the rear part of the plane and didn't let people use the restroom back there before the flight landed. A little extreme. We'll post a link up to the full story, but it seems like this is really getting out of hand. Like, if anyone gets any kind of, I mean, what's the point of the air sickness bag, right? If people are going to get sick.
It's a quarantine.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's just crazy. We're kind of overreacting, I think.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there's, the today, which, like I said, you said earlier, we're recording on Tuesday. So, they announced that all passengers inbound from the 3 West African countries must come through one of 5 U.S. airports. And there's a small number of passengers who are having to rebook their flights, because we're supposed to arrive elsewhere in the United States. And the U.S. is now saying, Department of Homeland Security, I think is actually who set the rule. If someone comes who originated in one of those countries and you arrive I think it's Newark, JFK, Dulles,
Chicago.
I don't remember the other 2 airports. I think Houston is one of them.
Yeah.
It's not Dallas, I'll tell you that right now. And actually, that's not even the rant. I remember my other rant. So if you guys, I could tell you about Dallas, how unprepared they were.
Yeah. But I mean, and the number of people affected is apparently something like 6% of booked passengers, so it's not that many. But still.
They made a good move with the Houston because the Lagos flight goes through there. So, which is funny.
Apparently Nigeria's blocked off anyone coming in from those countries, so that's not really going to be affected anyways.
Well, there was an article yesterday about how Nigeria has completely eradicated Ebola, and it no longer exist in the country. So, they've been the one success story in West Africa.
Senegal also, I believe.
Yeah, Senegal as well. As they're getting it under control pretty quickly. So, it's just overreaction, and I don't know, forcing people to change their flights because you guys.
There's something to be said for a measured and controlled response, while also not going absolutely batshit crazy. Yeah. Yep. And if the answer is a small number of passengers have to be rerouted to check properly,
then okay.
That's way better than everybody who was saying we should just we should stop all flights from those countries and no passengers from those countries should ever come in. Like, that was ridiculous.
I don't even, how do you do that? Because
you don't.
The guy that had Ebola that died, sadly, in Dallas, he flew through Brussels and then through Dulles and then to Dallas.
And lied on his
lied on the forms.
WHO.
Yeah. So you expected him to be caught at Brussels, but he still got through. So it's just it's unobtainium, right? To say that we're going to catch everybody and that's what we should even do. So it's stupid. Anyway. Oh, you can tell where we stand on Ebola.
So Rolo, how was DFW?
Well, when I flew there, I flew through there twice, and on the way to Buenos Aires, it was much. I was expecting to see some people, with masks on or just something out of the ordinary, and it was just like a regular day, nothing crazy. And then when I flew back through, coming in on the international flight, of course I didn't know which airports were supposed to have the checks. But I was getting off the plane expecting, going through some sort of temperature check or like guys in hazmat suits waiting at the door of the plane. And no, everything just flowed smoothly. Nobody cared. It looked like nothing had ever even happened at that airport. So, I guess in Dallas, it's a non-story.
Yeah. Oh man. So speaking of Dallas, the Wright Amendment is up. It's over. So Love Field, the other airport in the Dallas Metroplex, is now open to flights I believe that's longer than 1,200 miles. So now...
Well, it used to just be neighboring states.
Yeah.
And then it was like neighboring states plus a few places, and now it's just anything.
Yeah. So I think Southwest is moving a bunch of stuff, around, and they're adding some new routes, and it's a big deal.
Southwest is going from 16 destinations up to 33 by mid-January. They're going to be up to 154 daily flights, I think, which is pretty high. But the interesting thing there is Delta seems like they're going to get pushed out of Love Field.
Yeah, they're having to give up their gate, right? They had like some shared gate space with United.
Well, they were leasing the American gates, and American had to give up those gates as part of the merger. Virgin America won those won is a relative term, but won those from the DOJ and had to pay American for them. and they are going to be running 16 flights a day across their 2 gates. So there's no real room for anyone else to be there. And then United, just because, they can, is basically saying, oh, we're going to use our gates the whole time, sorry, and is not letting anyone else in. And so effectively, even though they're not really fully utilizing them, they've claimed a schedule that represents vaguely full utilization, and it's going to prevent Delta from really having access. So Delta got a bit of a reprieve because Southwest said, okay, well, you can use a couple of our gates, or one of our gates until mid-January, January 5th, I think, when the San Francisco and Oakland flights start. But at that point, Southwest is going to be so busy that they're going to need all their gates.
Wow.
And the best part is the quote from the guy at, city airport director or aviation director or something like that who's coming with, well, they could always buy them if they offered enough money to someone. Is effectively what he said. It's not a direct quote, but that's basically the gist of it.
And this goes back to the discussion we had a few weeks ago about, what Southwest has done with Love Field is kind of what they were protesting about at DFW. And that's why they didn't want to move there. Right? The control that American had over the gates.
It was the control American had over the gates, and I think they just, in many ways they just didn't want to move, and they had the opportunity to keep that downtown sort of convenience factor, right? I mean, one of the big things people are like, well, they're only 20 minutes apart. What's the big deal? Love Field is so much smaller that it really is convenient as a passenger.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten better because they've added new amenities and kind of rebuilt.
Yeah, they rebuilt the whole terminal. They rebuilt the whole terminal. It's now the new space is pretty nice. Apparently,
because it used to be a dump. I mean, it was definitely not a nice airport. It was I go here because it's convenient airport, kind of like what Hobby used to be in Houston. So
yeah,
but which is also getting rebuilt. I mean, it's interesting. They've taken these kind of downtown airports and made them usable and revitalized them in a way. Which is good. I wonder, I mean, they didn't move to IAH for the same reasons, or they moved to IAH for a few weeks and then moved back to Hobby. For the same reasons, because of United, or at that time it was Continental, and their control of the airport and they called it high rent. So it's interesting. I wonder how Virgin's really going to do on their routes. I think that's where Delta could make a comeback, is Virgin says we can't fill these flights, so we're going to cancel 2 flights and Delta gets a gate back.
Well, they'd still have to agree to some sort of lease from Virgin on the space, right? I mean, that's the ultimate key there.
Yeah,
is trying to figure that out, and it's preferred use, not exclusive use of the gates. But as long as the schedule vaguely looks like they're using them reasonably, the city can't really force the situation.
Gotcha. Interesting. Speaking of Delta, and last story before the Rolo rant, I guess the real Rolo rant, we'll get the full one. Delta is raising the elite qualification dollars for all status levels starting next year. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it goes up by like $2,500 a level or something like that.
It goes up from $2,500, or it goes up from 10 cents a mile to 12. So it's basically $3,000 for the 25,000 mile level, 6, 9, 12, or 6, 9, 15 for the 125 level.
Yeah. So it's a big change.
It's 20%.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is it's still below average
for fares.
Yeah. Right. If you look at the RASM, revenue per available seat mile, or yield, which is revenue, I think yield is revenue per flown seat mile.
Yeah.
Those numbers are still way higher. Or that number for the companies is still way higher than this 10 or 12 cents per mile. So it's still bad, and worse for the mileage runner / people playing the games, but still not awful for regular business traveler, even a regular leisure traveler who flies a lot. And the $25,000 spend on the Delta Amex still gets you the exemption. So
now, does you think United's going to match this?
I don't know. It's getting late enough in the year that if they want to, they probably should soon.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure they feel a need to.
Do you think they?
We don't know. We don't know what the numbers are in terms of how many people they've cut and in how the ranks have thinned. That's really the question: is are they at the level that they want to be?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of anecdotal talk about people leaving United, and so to me, it's a sign that maybe some people have left, but it also could be a sign that not that many people spend that much money on United that we're getting status. So the status levels have grown thin. So it's hard to gauge from the outside what's going on.
Yeah, and a lot of that anecdotal stuff is very anecdotal.
Yeah.
I don't think that that many people have left that it makes, that big a difference.
Especially from a hub like Houston, or even, I guess, like from Newark, I don't think people have been dropping off. I mean, maybe Chicago, people have left, or places where they have a choice, like San Francisco.
Yeah. I have a good friend who lives in Chicago, flies a lot to the West Coast and a lot to New York. And, his comment was he'd love to fly Virgin America. He really likes the product, really loves flying with them. Which, okay, fine, I guess. Not really my thing. I never really got into it, but he said you can't get them Chicago to New York. And so their route network is just too small still.
Yeah.
And so he has choices in Chicago. He mostly flies American now. I don't think he ever really was a United guy, but, it's, challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even when you have choices, the choices aren't really necessarily that great.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at American. They're a non-starter for me simply because their West Coast network is crap.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could go to Alaskan, but then anywhere I need to get east of the Mississippi, it's kind of like, well, you got one flight a day to like 3 places. So, not a really great option. So anyway.
Yeah.
Rolo, you're up. What's the rant? What's the producer's rant today?
The producer's rant today goes back, and I don't know if I guess this is a rant about Newark Airport, but it goes to Terminal A, especially on the American side. I just flew through there twice at different times of the day, and it's complete disaster to get through security. Like, at no time is the pre-check line ever open. The one time they're like, oh yeah, we'll just give you that pre-check light. The guy didn't give me the card. So when I got to the thing, I was like, oh yeah, he didn't give me the card. He's like, oh, sorry. You're not pre-checked then. Yeah, take your shoes off. Like, they actually like treated me worse. They're like, oh, sorry. But before I even got to that point, I don't know if you guys know the A Pier at Newark, how you go down the long hallway and there's different security checkpoints you could like kind of turn into.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
About 3 of them where I got denied entrance. Sorry, no, this is a training only. So we're only selecting certain people. I'm like, do you see the line? It got to the point where I almost walked out and wanted to go and have them like move me to the nonstop flight just because of the security check. And on the way back, of course that wouldn't have worked, but I probably would have missed my flight. And then on the way back, I'm like, all right, maybe it's a different story now. It was worse. Like, and that long corridor is so thin that it's like not even, you can't get in or out. There's no, when they have to like push a wheelchair through, or those beverage carts, and when they're putting the vendors, they bring in the stuff, it's complete chaos. I really think that they need to look at that and figure out, either do like they did at JFK where they moved the security at Terminal 4, or do something, because it's just getting out of control. And then open pre-check. Like, don't either get rid of it, don't say there's no pre-check, or have somebody open it. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, those terminals were clearly built for a different era.
Yeah.
Those are going to be torn down eventually, right? All the A side.
The theory is that A is going to get trashed and rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, can't wait for that. and then during that time, the air train will not be functioning again.
Well, naturally.
Oh, cool. Well, good show, guys. Thanks to all our listeners for listening. Let's go around the table and tell people where they can find us. Rollo?
You can find me on Twitter at MundoSurfer, and on Tumblr at mundosurfer.tumblr.com.
Seth?
And I'm Seth Miller, also known as the Wandering Aramaean, WANDR.me.
And Foz had to drop off the call, but he's at upgrd.com/FozM.
No.
No, just regular Foz?
He's just /Foz, and he's at FozM on Twitter.
Oh, my gosh.
He doesn't tweet much, though.
Doesn't tweet much. He usually tweets Amex stuff.
That's my sync assist working for him.
And I'm Steven Seagraves. You can find me on Twitter at sseagraves, or at badice.com. You can follow Dots, Lines, and Destinations on Twitter at DotsLines. Leave us a comment on our website, moredotsmorelines.com. We'd love to hear from you. We like feedback, and if you have an idea for a show, or if you want to talk about a topic, we'd love to hear it. So thanks for listening. See you later, guys.
Take care.
Take care.